Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? This is the Class in Session podcast. That's right, the Class in Session podcast. I am your host, Logan Taylor, with my amazing co host, my partner in crime, my brother, Mr. Dontay Hampton. And we have a special guest for you all today, Dontay.
Yes. So today we have Miss Frazier. She comes to us with tons of experience. This is over her 30th year in education. Is that correct?
Yes, this
Just
is
want to
year
make sure.
30.
Okay, just want to make sure I got that right. Okay, so like I said, tons of experience. She served in Hamilton County as the band director for over 26 years at Brainerd. She's been the dean of students for 3 years at Orchard Knob. This year she'll be starting as an AP assistant principal for the Center of Creative Arts. She's married. She has one stepson. She has three grandchildren. Now she is from Clarksville, Tennessee. If I'm not mistaken, that's like military background over there at that way in
Yeah.
Clarksville. Okay,
Yes.
just want to make sure. Um, she has a bachelor's in music education. She has a master's in music education as well. She's instructional leadership. She's of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. For all you guys, all you women out there, I'm gonna speak on the Greeks, but hey, let you know what she do. This is very interesting right here. She just recently released a gospel CD with her group called Divine Purpose. We'll get into that as well. It's called Worth the Wait. She never had a release party for it, but she plans to do that here soon. She's a member of Mount Canaan Baptist Church. Like I said, she just has a lot going on that a lot of y'all don't know. So,
Yeah.
Miss Frazier, can you just tell the people how you even got into education, how this even came about? How are you even on year 30 and you just now, decided you want to be a principal?
Okay. Well, hello. So I got into music at the age of 10, which is late for most people. And so I started playing the clarinet then, I started playing the piano. And then in sixth grade, I joined the band in middle school at New Providence Middle School in Clarksville. And I enjoyed playing the clarinet so much, and it just seemed so easy to me. And I just enjoyed it. I practiced all the time. And at that point, I decided I wanted to become a band director. And so, from the early reason is, of course, because I had a love for my instrument. The more that I stayed in music, I loved working with people. I loved how music made people feel. I loved studying and learning about the history of music. And then, of course, there's so many aspects of music. I write, I arrange. Um, so I just knew it was going to be my livelihood. So that's how I got started into education. Um, Went to UTC after I graduated from high school. Went to UTC. I was a part of the band there. A lot of people don't know that, even though, I taught at Brainerd, I never went to an HBCU. I went to Brainerd. I went to UTC. I was in the marching band, the concert band, the orchestra. I did all of that there. Also did chamber singers. So that was just music was just my life. And then once it was time to do my student teaching, I did my first placement at Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe. I was there for the first placement, and then after that, my second placement was at Brainerd. And for those who know the history of Brainerd, and the band director who was before me, that was Mr. Grady Black. And so I had never been to an all black school. And so I had gone to one of their football games, and I introduced myself to Mr. Black, and I told him I was about to student teach. I wanted to know, could I student teach with him? And he told me no, and he walked off. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay. So then the next weekend, I went around to him. I introduced myself again to him, and I said, please, I really need the experience. And so this time he said yes. And so that's how my relationship with Brainerd started. So truly a living legend. I learned a lot under that period of time. I think it was 8 weeks under him. And then after that, he retired, and we stayed in contact until after he retired and he passed away. But that's how I got into education. I just knew that once I got in the classroom, once I started working with the students, there was a large learning curve, but I just knew that that was the avenue I needed to take.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. So when you say range of music, so you mean to tell me, do you help students write music as well?
I have
Okay.
some former students who arrange music. They sell their arrangements. I don't think I've really sold any of my arrangements. Most of the arrangements I did was for Brainerd when I was there. And then there were times that some of the middle schools wanted an arrangement and I just gave it to them. So that's basically when you hear a song, whether it's on the radio or something that you like that has already been released, and then you arrange it for those particular instruments. So I've done that. And then, of course, I've done some original music as well.
Awesome. 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 Get in here, Logan.
Miss Frazier, it's funny that I heard you say that you got started into music a little bit later than most, right? So
Yes.
let me ask you this: when it comes to your scholars, when you were being the band director and things of that nature, how were you able to build relationships with those scholars, right? That, like you said, they're coming into music late. They may not have, the best idea or, things of that nature on how to, work music or how to do it or how to create it and things of that nature. How did you get people that had a interest for it, but they didn't have, the mechanics to be able to be the best person? How were you able to, bring that out of them?
So that question is kind of loaded. So I'll start with one aspect of that. So early on, and even into the middle part of my career, it was, challenging because I was a female. I started out fresh out of college. So it was the whole respect thing. She looks like a child. Who does she, what does she know? And even as I got on in years, this is, as far as being a band director, that's a male dominated profession. So a lot of times, as far as high school anyway, you may have quite a few females from middle school, but it was just challenging at first for people to take me seriously. Then after they saw my product, then they were like, okay. I did run into some people who didn't want to know how to actually, and when I'm talking about writing music, I'm talking about as far as putting it on paper for people to play it on their instruments or whatever. You have to have some form of a background with that because they were one to create for instruments, not knowing their range, not knowing about time signatures, key signatures. You can listen to songs on the radio, and when you go to the keyboard, you realize it's in a key that's pretty challenging. It's going to be something that's going to be difficult for your group to play. So you have to talk to them about, okay, well, we're going to have to transpose this. And they've got to know what some of that terminology means. As far as those who were already ahead of me, we all have different gifts and different talents because everybody in music doesn't write, everybody in music does not arrange. And then some people are more successful than others. So you have to really know where your lane is. And then you have to not be too prideful to get some assistance, to maybe get a mentor. I've mentored several people. And also, there were arrangements that I did that may not have been the best. And then I knew how to reach out to others. Um, I would definitely reach out to different directors who arranged for their college bands. I would reach out to one of the arrangers for TSU, Dean Sexton, who's from Chattanooga. I also reached out to Mario Warren, who's an assistant director at Alabama A&M. I bought his arrangements. There were tons of people. I hate to name call, but those were two that I really trusted as far as their their ability and what I was looking for. And then of course I have some former students, one in particular, Andre Robinson, who is currently working with Brainerd. Excuse me. And so he arranges, and he did a lot of arrangements for the band as well.
Okay, and so for people who don't know what arrangements are, can you break that down and just give them a little insight on that terminology?
Okay, so for example, you have a group that you want to do the Hey song. You can go to different music companies and order arrangements, but you don't know if it's really written for your group, depending on what your instrumentation is. So you got to go on your program, or back in the day before they had the program, you had to use your staff paper and you write for every instrument what you wanted them to play. And so you write down every note and every rhythm, and then you go from there. So that's what an arrangement is.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. It takes about, for me, to do a good arrangement, it takes me about 4 hours per song.
So that means if you're dealing with if scholars are in school 7.5, 8 hours, that means that you're only able to get 2 arrangements in, correct?
Yeah, but I would be arranging at home. So during the summer, during football season, you're up all night because these hot songs are coming on the radio, and you're like, okay, I got to have my arrangement for this. Because here's another thing, you may want to get a song for your band, but it hasn't been out yet to where you can order it. So you got to do it yourself. So that's me. I don't know about other people. Some people may be able to write faster than that, but to make sure that it was a quality, that's what I did. It took me about 4 hours. Now, if it was a snippet of a song, it wouldn't take that long. But if you're doing a nice full piece, you want your band to march to, you want your dance team or your flag team or someone to be featured, it's going to take about 4 hours.
Okay. And how many scholars would you have in your program? Because I heard you say marching and flag girls and you know what I'm saying, all of those different things. I heard you talk about football games, right? So how many scholars did you have in your program for you to be able to play on that Friday night and things of that nature?
Now it depended. You talking about like as far as the number of students?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So early back in the day when I first started Brainerd, I had over 100 students. You had your majorettes, your baton twirlers, you had your dance team, you had your flag team. We had what's called a drill team. Then you had your woodwinds, which is your flute, clarinet, saxophone. Then you had your brass, trumpet, French horn, baritone, trombone, sousaphone. And then, of course, you had your percussion, your cymbals, your snare, your tenor, your bass drum. So you had all of that to encompass the group. So, as far as the music was concerned, because not only did I do the music, I also did the drill. And the drill is the formations that they did on the field. So I had to create those as well.
That's dope. I know that took a lot, didn't it?
It did. And then once you, like when I first started, I would do my drills towards what we call core style.
Okay.
And a lot of people think of core style as the white style or whatever, but there are plenty of black bands that do core style. But the way that they do their formations was a little different than the way that most of the black schools did it, where the students were in squads. So you put out of four. And then from there, you manipulated and maneuvered them how you wanted it to go. But more so with core style, it's more freestyle and more free flowing. So you don't have that limit of, okay, I got four per group. So you were able to do a little bit more with that.
Awesome. What is a common myth about your job, right? Because I know you were a band director, and you can give me a common myth on all of these, but I know you were a band director, you were a dean of students, and now you're an AP, right? What is a
Yes.
common myth about your job that you're just like, y'all can't be serious, right? Like we had a guest we had Mr. Thurkill on, which was one of our first episodes, and he talked about people thinking that he was just like a paper pusher and things of that nature. Like, oh, he just push papers all day. That's all he do. He'll sign some stuff and he just sits in his office and that's it. What was a
Yeah.
common myth in your realm?
I think for band, one of the common myths was that people thought that being a band director was so easy. They thought that all the kids wanted to be there. It was always so much fun. Now it was very rewarding, but we know people are people. And we have good days, we have bad days. And sometimes you have and not only did I do band, but of course in the classroom, I did general music as well, or I did music history, or I did music theory. And sometimes I had students who were in my class because they were put there. They didn't want to be there. So they didn't want to do the work. Or there were students who had, issues coming from home or whatever was going on. And then unfortunately, it bled over into the classroom. So, and then also having to deal with parents because parents think that their child is the best child in the world, which is wonderful. But, you have to deal with every child. And, the discipline was what, was rough. I think a lot of times they thought, okay, they just get in the band, they just sit there and play their instrument. But no, the students had to have not only the discipline for the group, they had to have self-discipline. They had to be in physical shape. So I had to whip them into shape and it was rough. I had a lot of complaints. They were like, oh, working them too hard. It was too many hours, from the time we started to the time we ended. But of course, not only did I demand excellence in what I was doing, I expected them to be able to do what they needed to do in their other classes. And I always told them that the students who were assigned to me represented me. They were an extension of me. And so just to think that the job was just, super easy, that is definitely a myth because it was hard because you had so much, you're trying to please the community, please the students, please your bosses, your admin. But then, of course, you also have standards and different things that you have to adhere to in what you're teaching, because that's another thing. A lot of times, people think of the bands as providing a halftime show just for entertainment, but these are students who have to learn, and they have to, if they decide if they're going to go to college, they're going to play, you have to prepare them. You can't just prepare them for that moment. You got to prepare them for life. So a myth is, like I said, I think that the job was easy. It was cooperative, because that was not the case.
Okay, all right. So it's not easy being a band director. So listen, guys, she said that was a common myth. It is not easy because you have to get your students set up for life and not just the moment.
Yes.
You have to get them set up for life and not just the moment. Because if you have kids that are interested in wanting to play in college and further their career with music, then it starts with, like Miss Tracy said, Miss Frazier said, it starts with what Miss Frazier said and having to set them up for life and setting that expectation. Dontay, come on.
All right, so I got two questions. The first question is, because you're transitioning now, right, into an AP role. How was that for our listeners out there? Because they know your music background, but how was the transition from going from music band director to dean of students to now AP? Because I know that's going from basically not necessarily a worker to a boss, but you're just going for somebody who has a little more power and going more into administration. How was that?
Well, I want to say that before I started trans served as the leadership, a certain leadership team at my schools. I also was responsible because you had to have certain paperwork, certain deadlines, and different things like that for the fine arts department. So that was the part that most people don't really know unless you're in education. You have certain guidelines you have to adhere to. You have certain things that you have to do in your monthly meetings to submit and all of that. So that was kind of getting me started. Then there was a program called Leadership Fellows. This program is no longer in existence, but I was urged to participate in this program, which develops you into being a leader outside of the classroom. So that is a challenge if you've been in the classroom for a long time, if your leadership is limited. Now, the good thing about being a band director is that you also have a relationship with the community. You have a relationship with different people. And then, of course, your colleagues in different cities, different schools, different states. So, just depending on how well at that point. So once I did Leadership Fellows, that prepared me in my Dean of Students role. And so this past school year, they had a new program called the Aspiring Assistant Principals Lead Program. And so to apply for that, the competition was very, very stiff. And I was very nervous about that because my background was mostly, in music, in band. And so depending on what your role is in your school, it depends on, that determines what you were able to do. But I don't know if I had mentioned this. I'm also in school right now. I'm working on my doctorate. So I do believe that helped. Yeah, that helped me. I
We're gonna
graduated.
clap for you. We're gonna clap for you. We're gonna give a few claps.
Thank
Few
you.
claps
Thank
for
you.
you.
Okay, so I graduate in 2024. So the work that I'm doing there, I think really helped me, the powers that be in Hamilton County. I think they're like, okay, she's serious about education, and then of course I do have my an instructional leadership degree in EDS. So I have taken the courses. So now it's time to put those courses into action. So that's what prepared me for this. But it is different because I want to be a support for not only students but for staff. And I
Right.
started to notice that when I was on the leadership team at Brainerd, and when I was the team leader for the fine arts department, I really like working with adults too. So, in assisting them in the classroom, going in and helping them with whatever it is that they need to help their class run smoothly. Um, Also, I worked on the Hamilton County Arts Council. So I worked with other colleagues in arts, not just band, but there was dance, there was visual arts, just a whole, and of course, with the choral classes. So encompassing all of that, I was like, this is really preparing me for my next move. And I knew at some point I wanted to make the transition. And so the blessing right now is that I am at a performing arts school. So I still get to see the students in action. I get to assist, of course, the teachers. And so it's been a blessing, definitely.
Well, that's first off, congratulations on that, by the way.
Thank you.
But I think that's unique, and a common thing I keep hearing for the listeners out there is people who are transitioning from the classroom to a leadership position. It is possible. I
Yes.
know a lot of people think, hey, well, I'm in music, I can never be a principal, I can never be a dean of students. Well, we have Miss Frazier on here, who's literally her background was all music, and she's transitioning literally to an AP now. So
Yes.
I think that's very unique, especially because now you have to support the whole school, and
Yes.
music is not just the number one defined. You're dealing with behavior issues. You're dealing with adult support. You're dealing with a lot more attitudes, a lot more personality. So I think that's pretty unique. Which goes into my hot seat question for today.
Okay.
You can answer this however you want to.
Look at Logan smiling.
So he loved this question, by the way. But like I said, you can answer this however you want to. We ask everybody this. There's no judgment at all. But if there was a number or a value that you think an educator should make, what would it be? And should there be tiers of it, or however you think? You can answer however you want to, but is there a number or a value that you think educators should make in today's
Are you
time?
talking about? Are you talking about financially, or what
Yes,
do you
of
mean?
course.
Oh, okay, okay. I
Yes,
didn't know what you. Okay, well,
yes. Financially, is there a number? Oh, she set up on this. Look, is there a number that an educator should make to where you think education would be better off compared to, because we know right now as teacher burnout, we have teachers quitting, we have teachers working 2 or 3 jobs, we have literally educators who are going back to school just so they can have qualified pay.
mhm.
Yeah, Miss Frazier, let us know.
So I don't know if I'm the right person to answer this, because let me tell you, I've been in the system so long that I believe the starting pay might be at around 40. Don't quote me, but I think it's something like that. But when I started, our starting pay was 20. And so, yes, I know. I'm like, how in the
20,
world?
20.
Yes,
Wow. Okay.
$20,000.
Hold,
I
time out.
still have
Hold on,
my.
Miss Frazier. Hold on. Wait. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Your starting pay was $20,000.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have the stubs to prove it. I have my stubs when I first started. And so that was in 1993. And so that first year, it was 20,000. And so yeah, that's a big jump from, how you shaking your head. So, I do want to say that there are some concerns with how today, and just the cost of living, trying to get a house. Even if you don't even want to get a house, you want to live in an apartment. I've talked to some of my former students that were telling me about their rent, and I'm like, oh my God, and then you want to get a car, you got to have a way to get around. Then, the groceries are going up. And now, thank God, gas is going down, but it was going up. So it was really tough, in this period just recently with all that's been going on, and just how to make it. A lot of people were having roommates, and that might not be the ideal thing that people want to do. Some people are, if they live in the same they may be living at home, and that may not be, what it is that they would, truly want to do. Um, I would say we definitely would have to increase the starting pay. I would say at least, if possible, and I don't know if there are any states that even start at 50, and this is just with a bachelor's, because of course, the more degrees you make, the more money you make. But then here's the catch. There are some teachers who have gone into programs where the university or some program to get their master's, so they didn't have to go into debt. But you have some people who are going into debt just to make more money. And so they're already in debt because they had to, I don't, they may have gotten some scholarship money, but they still had to pay for that bachelor's. So, you're running into all of those things. Also, I think that with more money, when you are doing that, like if you do up the pay, you do need to make sure that the people that go into the classroom are vetted. You got to do a better job at that, because you don't want to draw people just for money, because that's because they love to teach. They're not looking at how much money they make. But then on the flip side of that, once they get in it, if they're in a challenging situation where it doesn't seem like it's paying off, they're not respected in their classroom, they're not being heard as a teacher, then they're feeling like, okay, well, maybe I need to look at something else. So we've got to make it where when they become teachers, they're supported. So that's one of my goals as an assistant principal, because not only am I supporting the arts, I also support the teachers in the core classes. And so I want to be a support to them, and make sure that they know that when they need assistance, when there are some issues that it may be something dealing with the classroom or outside of the classroom, I want them to know that they have a support right here with me, and whatever experience or whatever knowledge, wisdom I can give them. But now the way it also works is in the system, with each, you have to go through different steps. And as you complete the steps in education as a teacher, you get more money. So there may have to be something where the steps, the monetary value of the steps are increased, because that would possibly keep people into education. But you got that people are coming in for the right reason. We do have some people, I know we have some programs where we're pulling people in who did not go to school to become teachers. And that's wonderful if that's what they want to do. But they've got to go in there and understand that there is so much involved. You don't just leave the class, like when the bell rings, you're not done. If you're looking for that type of job, the teaching is not it. Teaching ain't it. You cannot. You're going to have so many other things that you have to do outside of the classroom. So, starting pay, I think, if possible, if it could be starting with a bachelor's at 50, that would be wonderful. The steps that are, that you make, I don't know if it's after the first year or the first 2 years. Like I said, it's been a while since I've looked at that, but then you get a pay increase. So that those steps, you might have to look at how much money is involved in that.
All right, all right.
I hope I answered your question.
You'll like Logan. Yeah, you answered it well. Like I said, you'll like Logan. He'll tell you why. He won't everybody in luxury. I'll just say that based on the value he'll say. Uh, he'll like everybody in luxury based on what he say. For me personally, I just think because the one thing that makes doctors, lawyers, and all that more appealing is the talent pool is so high. Everybody know if you want to go into education, it's a lot of time in school. So me and Logan say, if you bump the numbers up with it already being so much time in school, you're already gonna get people if you want to be in education, you're gonna have to go to school for it. But two, once you see the value and the number that you start out with, that will make it more appealing. And then the people who don't have the passion for it, you can weed those out. And that's why, like I said, Logan number be so high. For me, I just think you need housing programs and car programs. I think that's the biggest two things that'll make things more suitable. There'll be more security. If you have a housing program for first year teachers, housing programs for first year marriages, housing programs for people who getting ready to retire. That way you have something to where, let's say it doesn't work, you can sell that home. You can do a lot of different things to where it will support that. And then, of course, with a car, like I got my vehicle, my first ever car, I got that through a graduation program. I had to show them my diploma, and that's how I started my credit. I didn't have any, and that's how it worked. So I think if you have just different little stuff like that, it might bounce out or balance out as well. I'll let Logan say what he gonna say, and he'll probably make over here based on what he said.
So, Miss Frazier, I agree with what you stated, but my number is actually a little bit higher. So, what I think and believe that they should start teachers out at is 80,000. And like I said, the reason why I say that is because if you look back, right, the impact and the value that teachers add, there's no real number that you can put on it, right? Like you have people that have became doctors, that have became lawyers, that have became uh legends in music and different things of that nature. Where does that stem from? That stems from their teacher, right? If they didn't have somebody that in the education space that believed in them, that poured into them, that guided them, they probably wouldn't be in the position that they were in. And so I think that, to show teachers that we value them, and that, I feel like this will put teachers I feel like this will put the education space moving in the right direction to show them how much we value them. Because if we value you like we say we do, we not buying you we not doing no pizza party. We're gonna put our money where our mouth is, and we're gonna pay you, right? We're gonna pay you your paycheck, because y'all don't get overtime, right? You get paid for 37 and a half or 40 hours, depending on what state you're in. You get paid just for that. And as teachers or deans of students or principals and stuff like that, like y'all put in over 37 and a half or 40 hours. So y'all put in 50, 60 hours a week, right? Like you were talking about taking your work home early on in our conversation. You were talking about taking your work and stuff home. And so I believe and I think that, hey, listen, let's start out at 80,000 and then let's go from there. Because like you said, in 1993, you were getting paid $20,000. So that's what they're basing your increase off of, is your salary from when you first started in 1993. And I don't think that that's fair. I don't think that that's fair at all. Dontay, what you think? I know you said, the housing program and things of that nature. So what do you think? What are some other incentives you think that they could help with that?
Like I know they do a lot of little discounts and stuff. I just think over the course, like you just need a lot of essential stuff that you need help with, like how they do credit cards and things of that nature, lower interest rates. Like it could be a plethora of things. I know they do like little discounts, but it just could be like because everything is government based anyway. Why not set up those partnerships with the corporations that's already out here, the Walmarts of the world, the Staples of the world, the Dollar Generals of the world, and also based on your increase, you would have more teachers and educators already pouring back into it anyway. I know that's what I do already naturally is, okay, I have a decent job. I coach basketball. I'm naturally already going to, okay, hey, what else we need for the program? So if you're already doing that, if you're already set in stone, you're going to naturally already pour back into your students anyway. But that's here or there.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. I can see what you're saying. I definitely think that would help definitely and play a part to do, you know what I'm saying, to help, like just to help our students. Like now that teachers don't have to worry about money, right?
Right.
Now that teachers don't have to worry about money, it's like, okay, now we can actually add the best value that we possibly can, right? Like we can maximize the impact and value that we add because we don't have to worry about the financial piece. And
Right.
I think that being able to do that, I think that will help, you know what I'm saying, move things in the right direction. So it's just like, bro, like we got to do a better job because you got like educator burnout. Like, bro, we got teachers that have been teachers for, like Miss Frazier, for example, 30 years, bro. She be in the education space, right? Like, I definitely want to know, right? Like, how has she been able to do the work-life balance, right? Because you got people, like I said, that's been in the education space for 20, 25, 30 years, and now they're done. And there's so many different factors that play a part in that. And it's like, okay, how is that even, you know what I'm saying? Like, how is that even possible? Like, how have you been in education for so long and now all of a sudden you're just like, hey, I'm done with it. I don't want to do it no more. I'm good. Like, how were you able to sustain for so long and now all of a sudden you done? You don't have a passion. Like, it's just, I just think stuff like that is crazy, man. It's different, to say the least. So I just think being able to do that and being able to, just continue to have these conversations like what we're doing now. Like, I think that stuff like that is important.
I don't think to Miss Frazier, I don't even think people make it that far. For her to be in year 30 and just now getting an AP role, I don't even think in today's time, you're not even making it. Not even like our generation, you're not even making it.
Why you say that?
You're not making it because the way the world's set up now is it's because we're a capitalist country naturally anyway. it's so much other stuff out here. You're willing to take a chance now. Like we're considered I know we're in that in between, like we're in that in between age. You know, we're not too old, you're not too young. So we're in that age, and our mindset is where we're just gonna start over. We're just gonna quit and do something totally different. And entrepreneurship, it's just looking, which I don't have a problem with entrepreneurship, which everybody needs something. But entrepreneurship right now looks like it's like the number one thing for people to do, no matter if you can do it or you can't. So in today's time, you're not even gonna stay in education long enough to even do it. Like even think about it. Like you're not even gonna blink. You're gonna be like, oh, okay, y'all, this year 5 and y'all ain't increased my pay enough. You know, I'm done. And like I said, like working in logistics, that's how it really is. Like a broker or anything like that, they're literally competitive. Like people are leaving one logistics company just to go to another one for 10K, 12K. Like but like I said, that's the mentality. People don't understand, you know, a lot of times you can get, and this is on the entrepreneur side, but you could do something else to make up 10K, you know, that or 20K. Like I tell people all the time, if you're gonna leave a job from 30K to 50K, make sure it's longevity, make sure you're gonna learn something, because in reality, you're only getting maybe 100, $200 more a month. Maybe. That's maybe on the top end after taxes. And this, like I said, that's probably before tax. But in the sense, it just don't happen that way. It just really don't. So it is what it is.
Yeah, that's crazy. So
Logan,
do you think that it's
what'd you say?
more so do you think that it's more so like because people jumping like that? Is it because of like the lack of discipline, or is it because like yo, like I want to chase the dollar, or are they really searching for, you know, opportunities and things like that?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, like I said, we're in a weird time now where you can make money just about doing anything with this social media stuff. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think people chase opportunity, but people chase the number. Like people get caught up in the number all the time. And that's what I was talking about with logistics. One of the fields that I do work in is you can chase the dollar, but you can't chase the time. I think as I get older, and my granddad used to tell me this, he used to be like, you know, you so money hungry that one day you'll realize your money's gonna run out and your time is more important. And I didn't never understood that until I got a little older, where it's like, okay, now my time is a little bit more value. Like I can take a pay cut in certain places and the money doesn't matter to me because my time is a little more important. Whereas, you know, you're young, used to, oh, I work 7 days, or I do 6 days in a row of this. You know, I work in the factory doing this. And then you realize, like, okay, I'm literally killing myself for a few extra dollars when I can take that little extra time on the weekend to be with my kids. You know what I'm saying? Spend time with your grandparents. Like for me, I don't have any parents. All I have left is grandparents. So a lot of times nowadays, instead of me going in overtime or doing something else here on the weekend, I'd be like, you know what? Let me go see my grandparents. Let me take my grandparents to eat. You know, let's spend time here because you don't have that time. But that's only for me though. You know, most people, time is money. So, of course.
Gotcha. Awesome. So now, what were you saying? What were you saying, Miss Frazier? We were having some technical difficulties, but you know, it's all good. It's
Yes.
all good. So
Oh
what were
my
you
God.
stating?
I have like so much to say.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
you said this was just an hour, so I don't know.
No, come
Okay,
on.
so look. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to when you first started talking. So when you were talking and I saw my face, I was like, okay, I'm frozen. And I was, but I was listening. I was like, okay. So there are a lot of components to becoming a teacher. So before we even go into the financial part about how much or the salary or whatever, um, I think now universities are doing a better job at determining, helping those who plan to pursue a field of education and helping them to determine if this is the right route for them. Because when I was in school, you did certain, like your freshman year, you didn't really do too much. You took a few courses. Sophomore year, you did some observations. Junior year, some observations. Then your senior year, that's when you do your student teaching. So there were people that I was in classes with who didn't realize until their senior year that being a teacher was not for them, because they didn't get into the classroom until that senior year. Because you can say all day, I want to be a teacher. And then let's just be real. Every classroom, every school, and I'm talking about right here in Hamilton County, we're all different. You can go to a school in one spot, go 2 or 3 miles down the road, the whole culture and climate is totally different. So it depends on where you are as a teacher also. But I remember this one particular person I was in classes with, very talented person, went in for student teaching and then changed his major because he was like, I can't do this. And so the money aspect, yes, we need to make it attractive for our people who want to be teachers. But we really, really got to look at, why do people want to become teachers? There have been so many, and it could be because now we have more internet and we can see what's going on in the world. But there are so many cases of molestation, and then of course now the whole family dynamic has changed. And so the problems that I had as a teacher when I first started, those are not the same problems you have now, because you had kids who, they were coming from a home. A lot of times it was mom and dad there, or sometimes it was just, but now you got, these kids are coming in from foster care. You've got kids who are coming in from grandparents. You've got kids who are dealing with homelessness. And so I don't know if the classes right now teach teachers how to deal with that. A lot of this is on the job training. So you may attract somebody, ooh, $80,000 starting off, and I can, advance my career. I can get more degrees, then I can become a coach. I can do this and that, and I'm going to make more money. And they're not looking at why they are there, because there are so many kids who they need so much. They need more than than your subject matter that you teach. And you have got to make sure that whatever the starting salary is, you got to make sure that these people are in it for the right reason. Now, Dontay, you mentioned something about about something pertaining to, the longevity. Okay. So a lot of my friends that I started with, that we started in education, we're still there. So we started young. So by years we have, the time to retire, and we could, a lot of people, they retire from one system, they go to another. It's just, whatever it is that you decide that you want to do. But what I started noticing about 15 years ago, I started noticing a lot of turnover, because it wasn't like that. When I first started at Brainerd in 93, I was the only new teacher. Now you start a school year, almost half your faculty is new, because people, and it could be a number of things. It could be that now, someone has gone into education, they said, okay, I tried it, I don't want to do it, I want to do something else, or this is not for me, but that consistency is also what teachers, what students need, if possible. Now there are going to be some situations where people do, if they're promoted, if they, their family moves, they go somewhere else, so that's understandable. But when if you're in a school where there's a lot of turnover, stress, and then the kids have needs that the majority of the people can't meet, you're going to have a lot of problems. And if you have teachers who are in buildings who are like that, they feel they don't have the support that they need, then they may decide they're going to go find another field. And so that's what I've seen. So you do get people that they're not going in saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this till I retire." And so that those are some other factors as well. So, I think that the starting at 80, that would be wonderful, but I don't know if put it this way, the people who are in the field of education now, we didn't go in knowing we were going to make $80,000 starting off. We knew that we were going to have to put some work in. And so in some situations, some schools, some teachers, some cultures and climates, you're going to work harder than others.
But I think that you're gonna work harder than others because of there's two things. One, because of the way that the school is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing is depending on the person, right? Like I say, I feel like paying 80,000 now, it'll start to become attractive, and now you'll start to get people that really, like, especially in today's society, that really have a passion for it, right? Like I feel like you'll start getting better prospects and things of that nature. I do. I do believe that. I do.
Okay.
Because, like, okay, so it's not many people that's in the education space like you, right? Like, you've been in the education space for 30 years, right? You said, Logan, 1993, my total salary was $20,000. People at McDonald's can, you know what I'm saying, can make $20,000, right?
I
But
hope
they
back
don't know,
then they could.
right, not back then. But it's like, I feel like we really need to show people, or teachers, principals, whoever that are in the education space, like, we really need to show them how much we value them. And I feel like that is a way to be able to show them how much we value them. Because, like, like we were saying, you got people that's in the education space 30, 20, 15 years, and it's like, all of a sudden now you like, oh, I don't want to do this no more. And it's like, why? Like, what's the reason? Like, oh, I'm not getting the support. They don't value me. It's like, I'm having I'm burnt out. I'm having these mental health issues and just different things like that. And I'm like, yo, like, you are a great teacher, or you are a great administrator and things like that. And now all of a sudden you just want to give up. Like, you want to go in a different direction, right? Like, we had somebody that's on an episode. She was a ELA teacher, and she became an entrepreneur. She became an entrepreneur because she was making what she was making as an entrepreneur in regards to salary as a teacher. She was making that. I think she said it took her a few years, but once she started making that, she was like, oh, I don't want to be a teacher no more. And I'm like, okay, like, why? What was that? Was it because of the freedom that entrepreneurship gives? Is it because of you seeing, like, the stress and things of that nature? Like, what was it? And so I just think, like I said, being able to show teachers that we value them, and that, their voices are being heard, and different things of that nature.
Okay, so I'm gonna back up. It was something you said about the you feel like if the salary is like around, and I know we're just throwing out $80,000, you feel like it's gonna draw more people who have a passion. Is that what you think?
No,
No,
so
I
I
feel
don't
like
want to say that. I don't want to
no,
say
Dante
it's gonna.
said that. I
Okay.
feel like now I feel like you'll get better prospects when they see, like, oh, it's 80,000, versus then saying, well, we're gonna start you out at 35,000, especially in today's climate, right? Like, you're gonna be a first year teacher, we're gonna start you out at 35,000. So now
So
you got to
what?
go get an extra job.
Okay, so if what would these people be doing if they were not a teacher?
I
So
don't know.
That I mean,
that's what I
I'm just
was
trying to
saying.
yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like where you're pulling, the idea from because even though, and you're right, it doesn't matter how much money you make because the burnout and the stress is real and giving more money for a few people that might work, they'll say, okay, well, the money outweighs the stress or whatever. But for most people, it won't, because you're going to be like, okay, well, I'm making this money, but I got high blood pressure. I'm still struggling with bills, because depending on their family life, if they've got kids they're putting through school, or they're putting themselves through school, their diet's not right, they're not exercising, they don't have time, and just the stress and the demand of the job. So I don't know if, money, can solve some problems, but it won't solve a lot of that, because you got to have peace and peace of mind. And there are people who are willing to take a pay cut if it's going to give them the peace of mind that they need, whatever it is that they need at that time. Because, every person is different. But I do agree, the salary should be, when you think of a teacher, you're thinking of, as far as if they're first starting out, in order to be successful, you're thinking, okay, well, are they going to have to live at home? You're talking about the whole home thing. It was, are they going to have to live at home? Are they going to have a roommate? Are they going to, when they get married? And a lot of times people say this, it's like, well, if I get married, that'll make it better. But, that's two people with bills. So that might not always be true. And I have to bring this up. This was, I don't remember what year this was, but I had, it was a college band that had called. They were looking for a band director. And they had called me, and they were, and at one time I had thought about doing college band, but then when I saw, to me, from what I saw, it looked like it was more political. It was more of, it wasn't about the education. It was more of, you got to try to get your tenure. You got to try to pull these kids in the program and the recruiting. And, part of that is, great. But if that's just the focus and the stress, then, I just said that wasn't for me. So anyway, they had called and they were looking for a college band director. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was flattered that they had asked me. And so I said, okay, well, what's the salary? And so at that time I was making around 50,000. And so they told me that the salary was 40,000. I was like, I don't think so. And then they told me that they had a housing, I guess it would be in housing allowance or something, where it wasn't that they would like pay for your housing, but they had housing where the faculty could stay on campus. I'm not staying on no college campus. I was young, single. No, absolutely not. So, though, I'm just being real. So, there may be some allowances for things like that. And so that might have attracted somebody, but no.
So what do you think about so then let's say we don't do 80K. Let's say we do 50K, right? At the number that you suggested, and then add a housing allowance to it. Do you think that would be more attractive?
I don't know if I would start off with that. And the reason why is this would probably be a conversation for someone who's like in HR, who would know. But this is just based on what I see and what I am aware of. But of course, I don't know about the whole county. But retention is difficult. And if you offer something like this, what is the stipulation if they don't stay the whole year? Or what if they don't, return the next year? Do they have to stay? Is it just that they stay in the county? Do they have to stay at a particular school? So that would be something that the candidate would have to really look into, because if this is a housing allowance, and let's just say that they say you have to be at the school you have to make a commitment to the school or to the county for 5 years. That doesn't seem like that's bad, rough, but depending on where the teacher is, that may be something that they decide this is not for me. And then what happens at that point? Do they have to forfeit something? Do they have to pay something? How does that work?
Got you. I got you. All right, I got you. I got you. All right, so I have one more question. All
Okay.
right. What if you could change one thing? One thing. If you could change one thing um, about the education system, and when I ask you this, I mean globally. If you was to meet with the Department of Education and the Secretary of Department of Education, you meet with him on Monday, and he says, "Hey, Miss Frazier, what is one thing you would like for us to change, and we will implement it and get it done immediately?" What would that one thing be?
There are a lot of things I could think of, but if I had to just focus on one, I would say if there's an initiative that could be done where we look at what is working at some schools, whether it's in your city, district, state, look at what's working in that school, investigate what it is that they are doing. What are the programs that they are doing? How are they doing it? What is making it successful? And then having it where there's an opportunity where those teachers, or maybe either those teachers come and you have a professional development, or they come into your building and show you how to do what it is that they're doing so that you can be successful, and kind of streamline it. Because what I have seen in the schools where I've had an opportunity to either teach or observe, I am seeing some programs that are flourishing, that there are some stellar, some dynamite teachers and instructional coaches and administrators who are doing some great things. And those things don't need to just be held in that one school if it can help the others. Because why are you thriving here and I'm struggling 10 miles down the road over here? And look at what we can do. And with the schools that are struggling, we need to look at, and I know they have these studies to what they go in and they see, okay, well, they need work in their English language arts, or their math, or their geometry, or algebra. But what is it that some of the other schools are doing that can be done to help them, and actually do it? Because we talk about it all day. We have people who do tours and go, but we've got to figure out how to help our struggling schools. And the answers are really not, I don't think, that difficult. There are going to be some things, there are some opportunities here where there's a wealth of knowledge and there's some stuff that's going on that can benefit some other schools. Why not share it? And why not make this where, you partner up? Sometimes people do it voluntarily, but maybe this is something that needs to be done, where it's mandated, because it's no need in continuing to have such, you have so many that are striving over here and doing well. And then over here, I don't understand why we're still in that boat. And so I would like for, if there's an opportunity, like I said, to get a team to go in and look at these schools that are thriving, seeing what they are doing, and go and work with the schools and implement some stuff that will help them. Definitely working on graduation rate, definitely working on, the achievement gap is just awful. And so we got to work on those things. And I know we talk about it, people in certain, pockets talk about it, but what are we doing differently to help? So that would be something. We can't just keep ignoring it. You got to be successful all the way around, not just in sports. You need to be, successful in sports, academics, all of it. And don't, of course, I'm from the arts. Don't just put arts to the back, to the back of it, because students who thrive in sports and thrive in the arts, that can be their motivation to help them with the academics. And, a lot of times we don't look at that either. We're pushing that back. We got to get our scores up, which I understand that, but you got to use those teachers too.
Hey, she said y'all better put some respect on her craft. Y'all better stop playing with her.
Yeah, you better believe it. It.
Y'all better, hey, don't be pushing the arts to the back. What's wrong with y'all? Y'all heard her. Y'all better put some respect on her craft. She don't play about it. She's been in the game 30 years. Y'all better stop playing with her. Nah, I'm just playing. Hey, so listen. Okay, so let's talk about your album, your project. Let's talk about your baby, because we didn't get to touch on that, and I feel like that's very, very important. So, what made you want to put out what made you want to put out an album? What was the reason behind it?
Okay, so I have, of course, been in music. I've sung most of my life. Been in choirs. Have been a part of projects where there was recording. This started in actually before the pandemic. This was like in 2018, 2019. I was getting started. I had been writing music for a while, and I said, okay, it's time to, get it out there. And at the time of my life, I was around people who were going through so much. They were dealing with death, loss of jobs, divorce, you name it. They were. And at that time, I just saw that God was still blessing me. And I felt, and sometimes when you get to that point, you may feel bad because you're like, you don't want to brag about what God is doing for you because somebody else is hurting. But you have to be a motivator and to let them know that, God sees all, He knows all, and that this situation that you're in right now is temporary. It is not the end. You can keep going. You can't let it be the end. You got to, let this be your defining moment and you can move on. And so I got a group together of people that it was a few people that I worked with, and then the rest of the people, we were on a worship team together. And I asked them, I said, I've got these songs on my heart. I said, I want to, record them. Would you be interested? And so they told me yes. We got in the studio, and it was awesome. It was an awesome time to put it together. And then I finished it. My project was complete, got the CD ready and everything, March 6th of 2020. Well, if anybody remembers March 13th of 2020, that's when we all shut down. We all went home. And it was like, oh my God, And so from that point, I was able to sell. I did sell digitally on all the platforms, my CD. And then, of course, I've sold locally. And then, of course, I've shipped out some of the physical CDs as well. And so then I was like, okay, y'all, we're going to look at doing a listening party or a release party. So when I got ready to do that, of course, 2020, we just said, okay, we're going to let that go. 2021 comes. We're like, okay, we're really going to get this ready. Well, we started getting COVID or coronavirus. So I just really hadn't had the opportunity to do it. I wanted to do it. Then I was going to bring the group back. We were going to sing. We're supposed to sing in a couple of weeks. Well, last week I got COVID. I was like, oh my God. So yesterday was my first day back to work. So yeah, that COVID is no joke. And so I just have been afraid to bring them together, and we're just going to look at when it's going to be the best time to do it. But it has been a blessing. We finished that project, and then we were also supposed to go back in because I have songs to do a second CD. So we're just going to have to figure out when it's going to be a good time to get back in.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, listen, guys, you all make sure that you support Miss Frazier in her first project. All right. She has a upcoming listening party, so you all make sure that you support it. Before we get out of here, Ms. Frazier, can you let people know how they can get in contact with you, and then as well as leave our audience with a piece of motivation, please?
Okay. I am on social media. I am on Facebook, Tracey Hill Frazier. You'll see a lot of information that I put out there. Of course, education is my heart. Music is my heart. We know that. We know that's my love. Um, Email. I have. Let's see. What would be the best email? Most people do still social media anyway, but I'm on TikTok. Uh, like I said, Facebook. And then if I had to give a piece of advice to people about what they should do with their life, you need to look at what motivates you, what you are passionate about, what is your cause, what is your story, and you got to be willing to take the wins and the losses, and be in it for the long haul because it will be rewarding. You don't want to give up too soon and realize that, man, I should have stuck it out. But really have a heart for whatever it is that you want to do. And I'm just thankful to have this opportunity to talk with you all. I hope there's something that I've said or done that has motivated somebody to be the best person. And I hope that you all call me back. I hope I wasn't too, I try to keep it mild. I don't think I was controversial. But, hopefully you all will call me back. And the answer would definitely be yes, I will come back.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, listen, guys,
We
you
thank
all
you.
heard Ms. Frazier. She said, listen, basically do the work and trust the process. All right. Trust the process. All right. It won't be easy. So if you want to get into education, if you have any questions about music, if you have questions about the arts, being a dean of students, going into being an AP, get in contact with Ms. Frazier so that way she can help you and
Yes.
give you some best practices on what helped her. All right. Now, listen, guys, before we get out of here, listen, I am your host, Logan Taylor, my amazing co-host, my partner in crime, my brother. I am forever grateful for him. And Miss Frazier, thank you so much for coming on and just blessing us with your advice, with your wisdom, as well as with your presence. So I appreciate who you are. I appreciate what you do. I'm very big on giving flowers to our people that we bring on and our guests. So thank you for answering the call-in, and thank you for loving on our babies. None of this would be possible without you doing your part. So thank you so much. And listen, guys, this is the Class in Session podcast. All right, I am your host, Logan Taylor. My partner in crime, my brother, Dontay Hampton. And in closing, like we always say, Y.B.Normal.
When you can be extraordinary.
We'll see y'all soon. Peace. Thanks, guys.